Welcome everyone to this explainer. And today we're diving into the fascinating and honestly pretty vibrant world of English dialects. You know, if you've ever watched a show from the UK or maybe chatted with someone from Australia and thought to yourself, wait, are we even speaking the same language? Well, you are absolutely not alone. Language is a living, breathing thing, and today we're going to map out exactly how and why English completely transforms depending on where you're standing on the globe. To truly wrap our heads around the scale of what we're looking at, just consider this staggering number: 1.5 billion. English connects over 1.5 billion native and second language speakers all across the world. It's this massive, interconnected web of communication spanning continents, cultures, and centuries. But with a network this massive, a rather thought-provoking question kind of naturally pops up.
With 1.5 billion people chatting away, do we all speak the exact same English? Well, the reality is far more interesting than just a simple yes or no. The language isn't some uniform monolith. Instead, it's beautifully fragmented into these unique regional varieties. And it's these variations that make the language so incredibly colorful and expressive, literally turning every single conversation into a reflection of history and local identity.
Here is our travel itinerary for today's explainer. We'll quickly cover accent versus dialect, take a global English tour, do a head-to-head vocabulary comparison, look at idioms and expressions, explore why they differ, and figure out which one you should actually learn.
All right, stop number 1, accent versus dialect. What exactly is the difference between these two?
First up, we have the concept of an accent, which is really all about the sound. It refers strictly to the way words are pronounced. We're talking about specific pronunciation, the stress placed on certain syllables, the rhythm of the speech, and the rising or falling intonation of a sentence. It's basically how an American and a British speaker might look at the exact same word on a page, but say it out loud with a totally different rhythm and vocal flair. Now, a dialect, that goes much deeper. It includes not just that pronunciation, but the underlying vocabulary, grammatical structures, and everyday expressions of a specific region. This means those same two speakers might actually use entirely different words to describe the exact same object in their day-to-day lives. Moving on to Section 2, it's time for the Global English Tour, where we'll be exploring 5 distinct regions. We're starting our tour in the United States. American English is incredibly influential globally today, largely thanks to Hollywood, television, and the internet. Pronunciation here tends to be pretty smooth and straightforward. But the real key feature? American English is generally rhotic. That means speakers clearly roll or pronounce that R sound in words like car, water, and teacher. American English also opts for slightly simpler spelling conventions. Notice here how words drop the U in color or swap the S for a Z in analyze. Fun fact about this, it wasn't an accident. Lexicographer Noah Webster purposefully changed American spellings back in the 1800s, just to create a cultural identity distinct from Britain. It's a very practical, streamlined approach to writing out the language. Hopping right over the Atlantic to the UK, traditional Southern British speech is generally non-rothetic, which is the exact opposite of America. Here, the hard R is often totally silent unless it's followed by a vowel. Historically, dropping the R actually started as a trendy way for the British upper class to sound a bit more elite during the Industrial Revolution. So car elegantly becomes ka. Down under, in Australia, the super-friendly and formal culture really shapes the language. The pronunciation is relaxed, featuring shortened vowels and a rising intonation at the end of sentences. Australians also have an absolutely brilliant love for abbreviations. I mean, if you're spending your afternoon at a barbecue before heading over to McDonald's, you're having an arvo at a Barbie before grabbing Macca's. Heading back across the globe, Canada sits in this fascinating linguistic middle ground. It shares a lot of American-sounding pronunciation, though with a unique feature called Canadian raising, where certain vowel sounds actually shift upwards. But it also frequently mixes British and American spelling conventions. Add in some delightful local quirks like wearing a toque in the winter or ordering a double-double coffee with 2 creams and 2 sugars, and you've got a truly unique dialect. Our final stop on this world tour is Scotland, home to one of the oldest and most distinctive forms of English out there. The Scottish dialect features a fierce, rolling R, so yep, we're strongly rhotic again. It also possesses an incredibly rich vocabulary that strings together just beautifully. For example, if you ken or know the language, you wouldn't just see a small, beautiful child, you'd see a wee bonny bairn. Section 3, let's dive into some head-to-head vocabulary comparisons.
Let's put this same but different pattern to the test, shall we? If you're going home in the United States or Canada, you head to your apartment, likely taking the elevator. But if you're in Britain, Australia, or Scotland, you take the lift up to your flat. Need to fill up your car? In North America, you pump gas, but pretty much everywhere else, you're looking for petrol. It's the exact same concepts, just completely different local realities.
And for a quick pronunciation showdown, just listen to how differently you can ask for a simple glass of water. An American will typically say water, smoothing out that T into a D sound. A British speaker, they'll drop the R and emphasize the O, asking for some water. Meanwhile, an Australian might playfully blend the two approaches into a really relaxed water. Same word, entirely different sonic experience.
All right, section 4, idioms and expressions. This is where we get into the local flavor. If a task is super easy, an American calls it a piece of cake. But over in the UK, a success gets a cheerful "Bob's your uncle." Australians confirm the truth with fair dinkum, while Canadians might encourage you to just give her. And in Scotland, a beautiful traditional wish for a long life translates to lang mayer lum reek. Learning these idioms is honestly your secret passport to sounding like a true local. Moving on to section 5, why do they differ? Let's look at the evolution of English. So, how did one language fracture so much? The answer really lies in human movement and history. As English spread across continents over several centuries, it didn't just stay in a bubble. It constantly interacted with new lands, diverse indigenous languages, and immigrant communities. Add in some rapid historical shifts, like colonization, massive global trade, and the boom of industrialization, and the language just continuously evolved to fit its new surroundings. The incredible part is that, despite all these massive changes, the dialects remain mutually intelligible today. Pretty cool, right?
Finally, section 6, which should you learn? Let's match the dialect to your goals. So the absolutely crucial point is this. There is no single best English. You simply need to match your choice to your own personal goals. Like, if you want to study in the US or work in American corporate environments, American English is definitely your target. If you're prepping for the IELTS exam or you just love classic literature, British English makes a lot of sense. If you're moving to Sydney or Toronto, adapt to Australian or Canadian English respectively. The real beauty of this whole thing is that mastering one variety makes adapting to the others incredibly easy down the road. Ultimately, these differences in spelling and pronunciation aren't barriers at all. They're the vibrant living evidence of a language that manages to unite 1.5 billion people. So, ask yourself, are you learning the English of your favorite movies, the English of your ancestors, or maybe the English of your future home? Armed with this roadmap, which flavor of English will you choose to conquer next?